First up, I'm hopefully back. Went through a review of my videos. Then I got into a bunch of honeydew stuff, so sorry about taking them all down. I'm going to put up all the widget build videos again, and I've made some changes that I'm going to, not changes, updates. I talked in one of them about it. I am going to get a 3D printer, and I did get it. It's a FlashForge Adventure 3, just a basic model. It's better than what I got, and I'm going to go through and talk about different, not quite sure how to word this, different ways you might build a pattern using a 3D printer as opposed to building a wood pattern. Pros and cons of both, in my opinion, again. Let's take a look. Basically, in my other videos, you'll see this core box with a loose piece. It's relatively simple, no big issue. It's very little time to build. So then for the 3D printed core box, same thing, but I did it a loose piece, slightly different. So with this one, I don't like this as much as I do with a loose piece that slides in, rather opposed to a two-piece core box. Very simple reason is these pins will wear out. This has the ability to shift, where if you go with the wood core box or a core box with a loose piece, whether it's 3D printed or not, this fits in here. It won't wear out unless you really use it a lot, and it won't shift sideways. So that's my preference. I did a couple of patterns on the 3D printer for the widget. First one was a self-destruction test. I basically used stock settings on, or factory settings on the printer. That's 2 shells, 3 layers on the bottom, 4 layers on the top. And then I went out and took a hammer to it to see how strong it was when I beat it up, and it failed. If I was only building one and I treated it with kid gloves, probably worked just fine. So I built another one. That's this one. This is 4 shells, 4 top and bottom. The white here was a mistake in my CAD drawing. I found out I had 2 millimeters of finish on here when I wanted 3, and I constrained the height of this core print from the bottom of the pattern rather than the axis system. The axis system was 3 millimeters up in here. So when I constrained it to here, the bottom, what happened was when I corrected the model and put the 3 millimeters of finish on here, it lowered this by 1 millimeter up on top here. So I added a piece of material that's about 1 millimeter thick. That's why I got the white there. So this model is correct. One thing I didn't do is, if you notice, there's no holes in the bottom, so I have no idea where to put the risers. No way to lift it out of the mold. So says, well, that won't work. I mean, if I mounted this one, it would be fine. I'm not mounting it. I'm not going to use it as a pattern, but went ahead to show you the difference. This was the second one I did. Still 4 shells, 4 top and bottom layers. Another difference is this one used 15% infill. This one I used 25% infill, and it appears to make it about as hard as a piece of wood. But I did add the holes in there, so I know a riser goes here. I can put a riser here, so if I decide to make this a loose pattern and make one, and then I can use this hole and this hole to draw it out of the sand, which is, in my opinion, kind of a waste of time, because the reason I don't like 3D printed patterns is because I use these, basically a sheetrock screw or a sheetrock screw, but I can turn these in to the pattern. If it's wood, I don't have to worry about it. With this, if these layers aren't good, bang on it too hard or whatever, this is going to delaminate here over time. To me, 3D printed pattern, although it does work in the sand, it's, in my opinion, not the best way to go if you can build a wood pattern. So with a wood pattern, one thing I didn't get to in my other videos is tools you need, power tools I'm talking about, to build a wood pattern. So in the size stuff I make here, a good 14-inch bandsaw would work just fine. Minimum of a 12-inch sander, I would think, is just fine. And then I like to have a spindle sander. Jet makes a really nice one. Not advertising for them, I just like it because it does have a tilting table. And you can build anything you want. Options are, you can add a lathe, planer, joiner, anything else you want to add to build wood patterns that work great. I like using the 3D printer for a lot of other things, but for patterns for me, it works, but it's not the most efficient. Like I said in one of my other videos that I'll put back up online or on YouTube, is the wood pattern I built was about a 12-hour build total, start to finish, mounted on a board, everything else. Just printing this one part, because I went with a 25% infill and 4 shells and 4 top and bottom layers to give it the strength I felt it needed. This was an 8-hour print. Both sides of the core box here was a total of almost 8 hours, same as the pattern. And there's still more work that needs to be done to them. I gotta paint them, sand them up, I gotta spray them with a fillable primer, sand it down, and give it one last coat of paint. And then decide if I want to mount it or not. If I mount it, then I gotta do the same thing I did on the wood pattern. The wood pattern's a lot quicker to build. So, depends on your use. I'm not saying a 3D printer can't be used for building patterns. Of course it can. Complex shapes, CAD is great. I love it. Using the complex shape in a CAD program or a 3D printer also works great. But simple patterns, wood's, in my opinion, the way to go. So I'm just recommending that people that want to learn how to build wood patterns to start doing it. Maybe put the 3D printer off to the side for a while and look at which way you can do it. Because if you go from a drawing to a pattern, everything you do to the drawing you can do on just simple layout in a wood pattern, where you got to redesign the part. This the design work on the red pattern I got here, the design work on the pattern itself, I should say, was probably a total of about 12 hours worth of work just on that alone to design the part. Since it's a machine part, I also designed the machine part in case I wanted to machine the thing itself, which, I'm not going to do it. Basically, I'm going to make 2 castings, cut one up, the risers, everything else, see if there's any shrink, the quality of the metal, and everything else. The other one, I'll cut the risers off, polish it up, and make it look pretty, I guess. And then see if I want to machine it. We'll see how that works out. And other than that, I'm going to try and get back in the game. I just didn't realize that YouTube videos took as much time as they do. They take up a lot of time, and I got a lot of work out here. Living off-grid on 40 acres, and it's a lot of time involved in just maintaining the property and doing what I need to out here. So, don't know how often I'll get videos out, and I will see what I can do to get as many out as I can and try and show you what I think about building patterns, both wood and 3D printed patterns. What works, what doesn't work, at least for me anyway. The nice part about a 3D printer, if you're making plaques or something, lettering, everything can be done on the computer and printed off. My printer is got a little bit less than a 6-inch volume in all 3 directions, not 4. All 3 directions, it's just a hair under 6 inches. So that works for me because that's all I really need it for. So anyway, I'll keep going on this, and hopefully I'll put out some more videos and keep you guys appraised of what I'm doing. That's about it for this video. We'll talk at you later, and I'll see what I can get done. Thank you.